Welcome back to our channel History Coins HD. As you that old is gold, but these rare Lincoln penny coins that are most valuable than you think, don't spend one of them. You're lucky if you have one of these, so please watch complete video and find your treasure. Let's start this. Top 1 today, we're diving into the fascinating story of a tiny coin that could hold a surprisingly massive value, the 1961 D Lincoln 1-cent coin from the United States of America. Now, you might be thinking, it's just a penny, right? But stick around, because this little copper coin could actually be worth more than most people's cars. And in the world of collectors, even the smallest imperfection could turn an ordinary coin into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Let's go back to the early 1960s. It was a time of change and optimism in America. The country was deep into the space race, John F. Kennedy had just taken office, and coins like the 1961 D Lincoln cent were being struck by the millions. In fact, the Denver Mint, where this particular penny was produced, made over 1.7 billion of them that year. That's billion, with a B. So what makes one 1961 D penny so much more valuable than the rest? The magic lies in a few very specific details: rarity, condition, and unique minting errors. Let's talk about the design first. On the front, you've got the classic portrait of Abraham Lincoln, America's 16th president, facing to the right. The words "In God We Trust" arch above his head, liberty is to his left, and the date 1961 sits just in front of his chest. And just below that, a tiny but important detail, the letter D, marking it as minted in Denver. Flip the coin over and you'll see the Lincoln Memorial, columns and all, with the words United States of America across the top and 1 cent boldly centered below. E pluribus unum, meaning out of many, one, runs across the top of the memorial. It's a patriotic piece of design that millions of Americans handled every day without a second thought. But here's the thing: while most of these pennies were just everyday coins, a select few were anything but ordinary. Over time, collectors and experts have discovered that a small number of 1961 D Lincoln cents were struck with unusual characteristics. These include double die errors, where parts of the design appear doubled due to a misalignment during the minting process. These doubling errors can show up in the date, the word liberty, or even the motto, "In God We Trust." Then there are off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and coins with die cracks, tiny but telltale signs that the minting machines didn't quite do their job correctly. What's fascinating is that these imperfections, which might seem like flaws, are exactly what collectors are looking for. The rarer and more dramatic the error, the more a coin can be worth. But even without a dramatic error, there's another factor that can send the value of a 1961 D penny skyrocketing: condition. Most of these pennies spent decades in pockets, purses, drawers, and vending machines. They got scratched, worn down, and tarnished. But once in a while, someone finds one that looks almost untouched, shiny, flawless, and well preserved. These high-grade examples, often certified by grading companies like PCGS or NGC, are incredibly hard to find. And that's where the value really starts to climb. Imagine finding a penny from 1961 that looks as fresh as the day it was minted. No fingerprints, no scratches, just that perfect copper glow. Now imagine it also has a rare minting error, something almost no one else has. You'd be holding something truly special, a hidden gem in the world of numismatics. And now, for the part you've been waiting for: the value. If you're lucky enough to find one of these rare, high-grade, or error 1961 D Lincoln cents, its value might blow your mind. Because in the right condition, and with the right features, this 1-cent coin has been known to sell for as much as $80,000. Yes, you heard that right. 1 penny. $80,000. So the next time you come across a jar of old coins, don't dismiss the pennies. Take a closer look. That little copper coin might just be your golden ticket. Top 2, where we dig into the stories behind the coins you might have in your pocket right now and uncover which ones could make you rich. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button, because today's story is about a coin that's easy to overlook but could be worth a shocking amount of money. Imagine this. You're sorting through a handful of pennies, maybe some old change from a drawer, and you come across a Lincoln cent dated 1970. You glance at it, probably think, just another penny, and toss it aside. But hold on, what if that tiny copper coin was actually a rare version worth a jaw-dropping fortune? That's exactly what we're diving into today. Now, let's talk a little history. The Lincoln penny has been a staple of U.S. currency for over a century. First introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln, it was the first U.S. coin to feature a real historical figure. And it's still going strong today. Over the years, the design has evolved, but the image of Lincoln has remained, making it one of the most recognizable coins in the world. Fast forward to 1970. The United States was in a turbulent time: Vietnam War protests, space missions, and major cultural shifts. In the world of coin collecting, 1970 wasn't particularly famous until collectors started to realize something special. That year, a few Lincoln pennies were minted with unusual characteristics. Not all 1970 pennies are valuable, but there's a rare version that has become legendary among collectors. Here's where it gets interesting. The key to this penny's value lies in a minting error. A small number of 1970s Lincoln cents were struck using a proof die on a regular planchet, meaning the coin wasn't made exactly the way it was supposed to be. These error coins are incredibly hard to find. But what makes them even more fascinating is a specific feature, what collectors call a double die obverse. That's when the design elements on the front of the coin, like the date and the word Liberty, appear doubled. You'll need a magnifying glass to see it, but once you spot it, it's unmistakable. A doubling like this usually happens when the coin die strikes the planchet more than once but slightly off alignment. It's a rare mistake, and in the case of the 1970s penny, it turned an ordinary coin into a treasure. The doubling on these coins is strong and clear, making it one of the more dramatic and sought-after double die errors out there. Now, let's talk numbers. Millions of pennies were minted in 1970, but only a tiny fraction have this rare error. Most of them ended up in circulation, used for everyday purchases, slowly wearing down over time. That's why finding one in excellent condition is even more impressive and way more valuable. So how do you know if you have one of these special coins? First, check the date. It must be from 1970 and have the small s mint mark just below the date, indicating it was minted in San Francisco. Next, look closely at the date and the word Liberty. If they appear doubled, sharpen your eyes or use a coin loop. You might just have something extraordinary in your hands. Collectors go absolutely wild over error coins like this. They're not just rare, they're mysterious, beautiful mistakes that weren't meant to exist. And because of their scarcity and visual appeal, they're worth serious money to the right buyer. These coins often show up at major coin auctions and are quickly snatched up by dedicated collectors and investors, which brings us to the question you've probably been asking this whole time: how much could this rare 1970s double die Lincoln penny actually be worth? Well, if you've got one of these coins in superb condition, one that's been authenticated, graded, and preserved carefully, get ready for the big number. Because this unassuming little 1-cent piece has sold at auction for as much as $68,000, yes, you heard that right. $68,000. All for a penny that could easily go unnoticed. So, before you toss the jar of coins or spend that old change, take a closer look. You never know what kind of treasure might be hiding in plain sight. If you've got a 1970s penny, especially one with doubling on the date, do yourself a favor, get it checked by a professional. It might just be your lucky day. Top 3, where we uncover the secrets behind the change in your pocket, literally. Today, we're digging deep into a coin that most people don't think twice about. It's small, it's copper-colored, and it's probably passed through millions of hands over the years. But what if I told you that one version of the 1981 Lincoln penny, yes, just 1 cent, could actually be worth a small fortune? Stick around, because this video is about to change the way you look at pennies forever. Let's go back to 1981. The United States was going through a lot. Ronald Reagan had just become president, MTV launched for the first time, and technology was beginning to reshape the world. But quietly, in the background, the Denver Mint was busy producing millions upon millions of Lincoln cents, just like it had for decades. The 1981 Lincoln penny, marked with a tiny D under the date, seemed just like any other coin. But as you'll soon learn, it's not the quantity that counts, it's the quality and the quirks. Now, first things first, what does this coin look like? On the front of the coin, you'll find the iconic image of Abraham Lincoln, facing right. Above his head are the words, "In God We Trust," and to his left is the word Liberty. Just in front of his chest sits the date, 1981, followed by a small letter D. That D signifies that the coin was minted in Denver, Colorado, one of the main facilities for U.S. coin production. Flip the coin over, and you'll see the Lincoln Memorial, a structure many of us know well. The details are sharp and symmetrical: the columns, the steps, and yes, even a tiny image of Lincoln sitting in the center, just like the real statue in Washington, D.C. Across the top reads, United States of America, and just below it, E Pluribus Unum. At the bottom is the coin's denomination, 1 cent. It's a beautiful, patriotic design, one that stood the test of time. But here's where things start to get interesting. Most of the 1981 D Lincoln cents were made of 95% copper and 5% zinc. However, 1981 was the final full year the U.S. Mint used this composition. The very next year, in 1982, they began switching over to a copper-plated zinc penny, cheaper to make and lighter in weight. That means 1981 pennies are the last of a dying breed, and they already have a built-in historical significance. But beyond composition, what makes a specific 1981 D penny rare and valuable? The answer lies in two key things: condition and minting errors. First, let's talk about condition. The vast majority of these coins were used in everyday transactions. They were dropped, scratched, scuffed, and tossed into drawers and piggy banks. But a very small number were set aside and preserved in absolutely flawless, mint-state condition. These coins have sharp details, bright surfaces, and no signs of wear. They look exactly like they did the day they rolled off the minting press. Collectors and grading services use a scale from 1 to 70 to evaluate a coin's condition. A perfect 70 is almost impossible to achieve, and coins that score even in the high 60s are rare enough to command serious attention in the collector's market. Then come the mint errors, and this is where things get really exciting. Some 1981 D Lincoln pennies were struck off-center, meaning the design didn't align properly with the coin's surface. Others show signs of doubling, where parts of the coin, like the date or the word Liberty, appear duplicated due to a misaligned die during production. There are even reports of coins with die cracks, clipped planchets, and other oddities that turn an ordinary penny into a one-of-a-kind piece. Collectors go crazy for these kinds of errors. Why? Because they're unintentional. They're not part of the plan, and that makes them rare. And the rarer a coin is, especially one in excellent condition, the higher its value climbs. Now here's where it all comes together. Imagine finding a 1981 D Lincoln penny that's been sitting in a collection, untouched, still gleaming with its original copper glow. Now imagine that same coin has a dramatic mint error, maybe it's off-center, or has clear doubling on the date. That coin isn't just another penny. That's a collector's dream. And now, for the moment you've been waiting for, the value reveal. That if you're lucky enough to find a 1981 D Lincoln penny with rare features in perfect, uncirculated condition, its value could soar as high as $55,000. Yes, $55,000. For a single penny. So the next time you come across an old coin jar, or sort through that collection you inherited from a grandparent, don't overlook the pennies, especially the ones from 1981. Because one small coin could turn into a life-changing discovery. Top 4 in this episode, we're shining the spotlight on a coin that's often overlooked but has surprised collectors with its unexpected value, the 1978 Lincoln penny. That's right, a simple 1-cent piece from over 4 decades ago that could be hiding in your drawer, your piggy bank, or your old coin jar, waiting to be discovered. Now, you might be wondering, what makes a 1978 penny so special? After all, hundreds of millions of these were minted. True, but there's a secret here. Among the common coins produced that year, there are a few rare variations that stand out. And if you happen to find one of these exceptional versions, you might be holding a coin worth a staggering amount. Let's set the stage first. The 1978 Lincoln penny is part of a long and proud tradition. Abraham Lincoln first appeared on the U.S. cent in 1909, marking the 100th anniversary of his birth. Ever since then, his image has remained on the penny, making it one of the most iconic and enduring coins in American history. By 1978, the Lincoln cent was firmly established, but changes and errors in minting still made their way into circulation, creating the rare finds we chase today. Most 1978 pennies are made of copper and zinc, featuring the familiar design, Lincoln's profile on the front, and the Lincoln Memorial on the back. The mint marks for that year include no mint mark for Philadelphia, a D4 Denver, and an S4 San Francisco proof coins. But here's where it gets exciting. Not all 1978 pennies were created equal. Some of the rarest and most valuable 1978 pennies come from minting anomalies, tiny mistakes during production that turned ordinary coins into one-of-a-kind collector's items. These can include things like off-center strikes, double dies, clipped planchets, and even transitional errors. While these errors are unintentional, they make a coin incredibly appealing to collectors because they're so uncommon. One of the most talked about variations is the 1978 double die obverse penny. This error features noticeable doubling in the inscriptions on the front of the coin, especially in the words Liberty, In God We Trust, and the date. If you ever see a 1978 penny where these letters or numbers look like they have a shadow or are slightly doubled, don't dismiss it. That could be a sign you're holding something extraordinary. Another rare variety includes coins struck on the wrong planchet. Occasionally, a penny may have been mistakenly struck on a dime planchet or even a foreign coin blank. These error coins are visually distinct. They're often lighter, smaller, or have unusual coloring or metal tone. If you find a 1978 penny that just feels or looks different, it might be worth a second look or even a professional evaluation. Of course, condition is everything when it comes to coin collecting. A rare penny in poor shape might only fetch a modest amount, but a rare penny in pristine, uncirculated condition? That's where the real value lies. Collectors and investors are willing to pay serious money for coins that are not only rare but also perfectly preserved. Coins that have been graded by top certification companies like PCGS or NGC, especially those with high grades like MS65 or higher, can command unbelievable prices at auctions. So now, the big question. What's the highest price someone has actually paid for one of these elusive 1978 Lincoln pennies? Well, buckle up, because this is the moment you've been waiting for. One of the rarest and most pristine examples of a 1978 Lincoln penny, featuring a remarkable mint error and preserved in near-perfect condition, was sold for an eye-popping amount. It wasn't just a few $100s. It wasn't a few thousand either. This little copper coin, no bigger than your fingernail, went for an incredible $62,000. Yes, you heard that correctly. $62,000 for a single penny from 1978. And the best part? These coins are still out there. They're hiding in old jars, coin collections, and change drawers across the country. So, before you cash in your change or spend that old penny, take a closer look. Examine the date, check for doubling, weigh it if you can, and pay attention to anything that seems unusual. Your next trip through your coin stash might uncover something truly valuable. Top 5. We're diving into the fascinating story of a small copper coin that could be worth more than your car or even more than some people's annual salary. We're talking about a rare version of the 1972 Lincoln penny that has become a legend in the world of numismatics. At first glance, a 1972 penny doesn't seem like anything out of the ordinary. It's just one of the countless 1-cent coins that have passed through millions of hands across the decades. Maybe you've spent one at a vending machine, dropped one between your car seats, or ignored a few lying at the bottom of a change jar. But within that sea of common sense, there's a treasure waiting to be discovered. The Lincoln penny, first minted in 1909, has a rich history. It was the first U.S. coin to feature the image of an actual person, President Abraham Lincoln. Over the decades, the design remained relatively consistent, and in 1972, it still carried the same classic profile of Lincoln on the obverse, with the Lincoln Memorial featured on the reverse. But here's where the story takes a turn. The United States Mint in 1972 accidentally produced a small number of pennies with what collectors call a double die obverse. This wasn't a small printing flaw. It was a clear, obvious error, where elements of the coin's design, especially the date, the word liberty, and the phrase "In God We Trust" appear doubled. It's not a trick of the light. It's real doubling, and when you see it, it's unmistakable. This kind of doubling occurs when the die, the stamp used to press the image onto the blank coin, shifts slightly between strikes. Most coins are struck only once. But in a double die situation, the die impresses the design twice, slightly offset. The result? Bold, dramatic, and collectible mistakes. The 1972 double die penny is one of the most popular and well-known error coins among collectors. And for good reason. It's one of the few coins where the doubling is so strong that it can be seen with the naked eye. You don't need special equipment to notice it. Just a good eye and maybe a little patience as you sort through your change. Now, not all 1972 pennies are valuable. The vast majority are ordinary and worth just a cent. But if you find one with the dramatic doubling, you could be sitting on something much more valuable than you think. The key is to look at the details. On the front of the coin, closely inspect the word Liberty. If the letters look like they're doubled or shadowed, take a closer look. Then check the date, 1972. If those numbers look doubled too, you might be holding one of the rarest varieties from that year. It's also important to mention that there are different types of doubling. Only a specific kind, known as the Type 1 double die obverse, holds the highest value. There are a few other minor varieties, but the type 1 is the big one, the one every serious collector wants in their collection. It's rare, dramatic, and instantly recognizable once you know what to look for. So, how rare is this coin? Estimates suggest that about 250,000 of these double-die pennies were struck before the error was caught. That might sound like a lot, but when you consider how many coins go into circulation each year, billions of them, it's just a tiny fraction. And of those, only a small percentage remain in good condition. Many have been worn down by decades of use, scratched, damaged, or simply lost. That's why condition matters. If you've got a 1972 double-die penny in pristine, uncirculated condition, your chances of cashing in increase dramatically. Coins that have been professionally graded and sealed in protective holders, especially those with a high grade, like MS65 or higher, are the ones that bring in the big money. So now, the moment you've been waiting for. What is this tiny copper coin actually worth? Well, in circulated condition, it might fetch a few $100s. But if you've got a sharp, clean example with strong doubling and top-tier condition, brace yourself, because this little 1-cent coin has been sold at auction for as much as $65,000. Yes, you heard that right. $65,000 for a single 1972 Lincoln penny. It's the kind of story that keeps coin hunters digging through pocket change and old jars. These treasures are out there, hiding in plain sight, waiting to be discovered by someone who knows what to look for. So before you pass up your next penny, take a second to flip it over, check the date, and give it a closer look. You never know, you might just stumble across one of the most valuable mistakes in US coin history. Thanks for watching, and if you found this video as fascinating as the coin itself, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next coin story. Have a rare find of your own? Drop it in the comments below, we'd love to hear about it. Until next time, keep hunting.